And so our joining is a celebration of where we are one field, one light, one love, one glorious celebration, the field of presence. The curious thing about life is that we've been so conditioned to think that we have to fix and change things. And in its own way, that idea is what keeps us trapped. As long as we're in the frequency field of fixing, changing, we totally overlook the glorious reality that's always here. And that actually it's about coming to the frequency of reality and seeing from a perspective that is not broken or limited. To see from a perspective that is undivided is what actually changes the frequency resonance of the whole life. In a way, to awaken to the true nature is to awaken to the glory of God in the heart, to awaken to the reality of love as who we are. And that's what this human life is about. We imagine that this human life is about toil and strife, about fixing, changing, trying to be successful, kind of like climb the ladder, fall down the snake, climb the ladder, fall down the snake. And we just keep kind of playing this game until the body drops, but it's not so. The incarnation of a human life is the most precious grace, gift, and opportunity. And in a way, it's to realize what the opportunity is, and that the opportunity is to know the love of God, to know what God and glory is in the heart, the divine. And in that, it's the meeting of our, we could say, our higher self, our whole self. It's the meeting of the love that we are, the essence, resonant frequency of what we are, actually opening to the fullness, the full substance, the fullness of what we are, and not living from kind of like a limitation and just limping through life. It's that we actually open to the fullness, to discover what is God, what is the glory, what is love supreme. And what we discover is that it is the fullness of what we are, and it's not something outside of us. And it's not a man sitting in a cloud casting judgment. What God and glory is the fullness, the wholeness, the untainted, pure innocence of what we are. And the quest of this human life is to discover that for ourselves, uniquely in our own heart, without question. To know this truth in the heart, to know the goodness that you are, to see through the habits of living in fear and division, and to live as the love, as the wholeness and beauty of what you are, to be a shining, radiant light that is creating your own life, and to be that shining, radiant life on the surface of life. Bring that as an integrated, lived experience. Bring that love, that light, that knowing of life, vital life, right to the surface of life. To be living as a field of infinite possibility, to be living at the frequency of pure potentiality that just has capacity so far beyond what the majority are living. And to see how easy it is to get trapped in the delusion, corruption, and discordance of the collective consciousness, and to keep ourselves small, to keep playing small, when we are anything but small in our true nature, right? And we're not big as an opposite to small. We are infinite, vast, pure power and potentiality. We are a living intelligence that is infinite in its expression of possibility. We are the edge of the evolution of human consciousness. And what we are open to and what is possible in this human life has not been written, right? There is not a book about it, my friends. No, there's no books about this. It's being written in our lives, moment to moment. We are the cutting edge of human evolution, the evolution of human consciousness. You cannot get a book about this from Amazon, from the library, from the the vaults of Vedic teachings or histories, because this has not been written about. This has not been downloaded from the field before what we are living. We are being invited to be in the frequency of living Rishi ourselves and to come to a remembrance of the power of the truth of who we are, where we're here to actually fulfill the mission of humanity, which is to go beyond what has ever happened in this earth plane, this earth realm before. And what that takes is vision, insight. It takes courage, willingness to not get tangled into the smallness of living a life divided in the belief in division, the belief in powerlessness, the belief in despair and lack of hope. What is happening on the surface of life in the human realm, the earth plane right now, is not things going bad. It's the deep darkness being drawn to the surface to be transmuted into light. So let us be the light that has the power to transmute. Let us hold the frequency of love. Let us vote love and vote love and vote love in every possible moment we have to make a vote, to cast an opinion. Let it be love in every single moment. Let it be a love that has no opposite, no sides, no division, no taking a stance, holding a posture, but just being the living frequency of love, right? Because there's nothing that can oppose love, right? I got stopped for speeding yesterday. It was a sunny day, the road was open, and before I knew it, I was being called over. And I just started laughing. And the policeman said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine, how are you?" And he started laughing immediately because I was just in love. I just thought it was the funniest thing. And he wasn't met with opposition, right? I was like, "Wow, thank you." He started trying to justify his machine. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not questioning your machine. I was over the speed limit. I saw it, and I slowed down. But you caught me at the moment where I was, my foot just slipped a little low on the pedal, and 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 we were just laughing. There was just laughter, and he went off to write me a ticket. And while he was gone, I was like tidying up my car, and he came back, and he's like, "Claire," I like jumped out of my seat and he shared with me that the amount that my ticket should have been, and actually the amount that he was actually giving me the ticket for, and we just had this beautiful, joyous exchange, and it was this, right? It's like when we're not in opposition to life, when we're just resonating at the frequency of love. It was like I almost said, "I love you. Have a beautiful day. I thought it might have freaked him out, so I didn't like drop the love bomb. But it was there. It was in the field. It was unmistakable. Because I just thought it was the funniest thing. I was like, I'm probably like the least dangerous person on the road here today. But okay, sure, you know? So it's this, right? It's living at this frequency of no opposition. Living at this frequency of love. Living this love, voting love, being all about love, right? From the absolute deepest root of your silent self. It's not about fixing and changing yourself and making yourself worthy of love. It's not about wallowing in the brokenness and how am I going to fix it. It's about voting love right now and shifting the frequency of your lived experience. And in a way, attuning your deep intuitive knowing of what is true. Attuning your deep radar to be so sharp that you recognize the frequency of love and openness, and that you're not willing to compromise yourself. You're not willing to, we could say, tolerate anything but. And that's not a shutting down and a dividing. It's an invitation to uplift life around you, right? To not fall into the frequency of the majority of the collective, but to be the frequency of upliftment, to literally be the change, right? To be the change, that it has to come from inside, because there's nothing outside except what you're creating, right? There's nothing outside except what you're creating. And where we see corruption and distortion, it's just an opportunity to go deep inside and do a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of purifying, a little bit of sifting through the threads of our own discordance and corruption in order to see from a perspective that sees only love, that knows only love. And yes, the mind can come up with all of these ideas of, oh, well, that's very well for you because very well for you. That's very easy. And it's like, it is because of a courageous willingness every day to keep voting yes, to keep saying yes to love, right? Every one of us has the possibility to get pulled in, to get sucked in. Every one of us has faced and does face trials and tribulations in this life because the collective is still in a quality frequency of discordance and fear. So it's very, very easy. And what it takes is everything that we have that we can muster to find that place inside us that is longing for love, for truth, for reality, more than that pull that's habitual to be in stress and suffering. That we're here to know the truth of love. We're here to know what God is, what the divine is. And the words don't matter. So we're also here to not let words put us off, to not shy away from the word God because it brings some kind of recollection and say, oh, I'm not interested in God. It's like, well, what are you interested in? Are you interested in knowing yourself? Are you interested in freedom? Are you interested in love? Are you interested in wholeness? Are you interested in not suffering and being miserable anymore? Right? So don't let the word God put you off. Find out what you are interested in. Find your own vernacular, your own language. Find your own way of knowing what your heart is on fire for, right? Find your way. No one can do it for you. Find what brings you alive. Find what stirs your soul. Find what makes you laugh, what makes you sing, what makes you dance, right? Because as long as we're moving and we're flowing with the creative impulse and inspiration of life, we're in the current, right? And that's what this life is for. We can sit on the banks and imagine that we're watching everyone else being pulled in the current. But what's holding you back from jumping in, right? What's holding us back from jumping in? Ooh, the water's too cold, the water's too this. You know, I don't have my bathing suit. It's like, just jump in, my friends, right? Jump in to life. Jump in to this glorious invitation. We have no idea how many breaths we have left. And breath is the way that the divine animates us and calls us into this incredible mission and possibility. We have no idea how many breaths we have in. Will we make the most of the preciousness and the glorious possible and opportunity of this life? Or will we be pulled, sucked into the collective misery and make our allegiance there and say, oh, well, I'll just come around and do it all again? Because, my friends, we have more news here from the realms of light. Things are changing. Things are changing up there in heaven and the soul realms of light, right? Things are changing, right? The same rules don't apply anymore. There's new ways of life being lived, of life being regenerated, right? And that's happening because there's a shift in consciousness, which means that the whole dance of reincarnation within the realm of the mind and the human realm of limitation and the whole recycling of souls and multi-lifetime experience is shifting, right? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it sparkling in your nervous system? Because we don't need to keep repeating that forever and ever, amen, because the whole purpose of that is that we see through the karmas and that we come to a clarity and purity of consciousness where we leave the departure lounge, right? And we actually take off. We metamorphosize and we butterfly ourselves into the glory of God's true reality, right? That's what we're here for. We're not here for a never-ending infant recycling program, right? So things are shifting. Things are shifting, right? So do you actually have another chance, right? What happens if you don't take this chance? This lifetime is the great glorious invitation. Will you say yes to God and the glory? Or will you say, yeah, actually, I've got my own plan, God. I'm going to stay over here. Do it my way. Fine, says God, because it's all there is. But will you live this life in love, or will you live this life in fear? Will you join the celebration? Will you join the glory of what love has in store for us? Will we live the fullness of allowing the Christ light to go on? Oh, that's amazing. I'm just realizing it's Good Friday, right? No mistake in the one field. Will we allow ourselves to die to separation? Will we allow the crucifixion to happen? Will we surrender ourselves into eternal life? Will we surrender ourselves out of division and separation? Or will we keep making our allegiance, right? With misery. And the grace and glory is we get to choose. Yes, it's choiceless on the level of consciousness. But if you're here, and if you're hearing this, either in this moment, live, or if you're hearing it played back, this moment, you get to choose. Will you say yes to God and love? Will you vote love, or will you vote fear, right? We get to choose the frequency of the lived experience. And we could say, oh yeah, but all these things and all these problems and all these, but the thing is that when we choose love and we shift our frequency, everything in the play recalibrates and takes care of itself. We see through the whole dross of matter and physicality, and we recognize the truth of light resonant frequency and the essence substance of what we are and what we're made of. We're not here to fix problems. We're not here to be in that frequency of something's wrong. How can I make it right? We're here to up-level our frequency and trust and watch as grace fixes and changes. Because the fixing and changing happens as a reconciliation in the heart. It happens as a complete reorienting, recalibration of consciousness and the nervous system. And it happens multidimensionally. And it doesn't happen in time and space as a process. It happens with immediate effect. Boom, right? So whatever we are dealing with, whatever are the challenges that are present in the surface of life, in our lived experience, these are our graced opportunities to invite us to give all of this to God, to give all of this to love, to immerse ourselves with all that is on our plate, let's say. Bring your plate to the party, right? Bring your plate to the presence of God. Bring your plate, right? Bring all of it. Offer it all. Admit the truth. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make it better. I don't know what God even is, right? It's this handing yourself over to the intelligence of yourself that does know, right? So we don't need to be concerned about what is God, the Divine Mother, deities. We don't need to be concerned with anything that doesn't resonate for us. It's about, are you interested in knowing the wholeness of yourself? Are you interested in knowing the truth about who you are? Find your path to yourself. What are you interested in? What do you want from this life, right? And even if it's that, you know, it's like whatever you throw into the mix, God and glory, love will turn it around, illuminate it so you see that what you want. What do you want? You want companionship? Sure, make God your companion. You want a partner? I've got the perfect partner for you. Make God your partner, right? You want a job? I've got a job for you. Make your full-time job being present with yourself and the glory of God, right? What do you want? You want some rest? You want to rest? I've got the exact perfect possibility for you. Rest in the still, silent presence. Put your feet up and bathe in the glory of still, silent presence. What else? What else, right? Whatever you want, see it from the perspective of the most incredible, potent possibility. And if it's a spiritual seeking, spiritual ambition, I want to awaken, I want enlightenment, I want the full, I want the full meal deal here. Absolutely. And what are you willing to give? What is the exchange that you're willing to give in order to know yourself? Are you willing to give all that you are to the divine? Are you willing to see that all that you are and all that you think you have belongs to the divine? Are you willing to return everything that you're keeping in the cave of the me and the mind to the divine, right? Because the mother, the glory, is asking us, return yourself to sender, return yourself to creator, right? Return yourself to creator, right? We are so powerful, and yet we play out powerlessness. We are so free, and yet we play out captivity. We're unlimited, infinite, boundless, yet we play out limitation, right? Everything that our heart is calling for is here. And it's actually easier. It's an easier path. It's the path of least resistance. It's the path of no resistance. And yet we're so habituated to resist and to be challenged. We're so habituated and unconsciously committed to be miserable and not be too joyful, not get too big for our boots, not be too bright and shiny. We're so conditioned to, in a way, the quick fix and the hard way, instead of the openness to the, in a way, what is the greatest longing of the heart? And can we hold this focus and allow the grace and guidance to carry us into the fullness? And the fullness that we're being carried into is the fullness of our very own self. When we are filled with spirit, filled with the Bhav, what we are filled with is the joyous freedom and ecstatic truth of our own nature, right? It's not outside of us. So if we have some kind of opening, or we're singing kirtan or bhajans or whatever, if we're dancing like in ecstatic dance, it's not outside of us. It's our presence, our willingness, our yes that is releasing the elixir of bliss light into our system, and our consciousness is opening and upgrading, right? Let's have more of that on the menu, right? Right? But let's know that it's not outside of us, right? Connecting with companions, right, is a beautiful example as well. Can be so uplifting, so joyous to feel seen and loved and cared for, held, joining in laughter, feeling seen, feeling like a shared conversation. But it's to notice what's actually happening is in your own system. It's not outside of you. You're creating this. Your willingness, your courage, your openness is creating a shifting in your consciousness. It's all happening inside you, right? And this is such an amazing possibility in life, is that when we start resting and listening, we realize that what we are in truth is the awareness. We're a field of awareness, a field of conscious awareness. And we're awake to our very own self, in and as everything. We're habituated to think I'm an object and these are objects. But the truth is that we're not an object. We're the pure subjectivity. And when we recognize the pure subjectivity, the truth of what we are, we realize that, well, I'm not an object and these are not objects. And it's not about the dance of duality. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, you give me what I want, right? We're not in a bartering, bargaining system in the frequency of love. we're in a clear recognition that this is one field of pure subjectivity. It's a unified field, and there's a dance here of a knowing of that oneness, and it allows us to give and receive, to exchange energy healthily, right? It allows us to be open to receive, open to give, because we know that when we give, that we're going to receive, that when we receive, that there's a giving to that, right? Because this flow of the unified field is a flow that's self-fulfilling, self-sustaining wholeness, right? We trust it. We're not bartering. We're not in scarcity. We're not in fear and lack. We're not trying to grasp on like, ooh, 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 I'm not going to share it with you because what if I need it one day? What if you don't give me back, right? What if I offer you something and you don't give it back to me? It's like, no, let's be very, very clear, right? Very, very clear in our frequency of love. Let's communicate clearly. Let's be open and honest. Let's allow there to be an alignment where the inner frequency, the expression, the word, the deed, the action is like an absolute, clear, honest momentum, right? Where we're willing to see the corruption and discordance in our own systems. We're willing to see where things are playing that feel discordance. And we're willing to take that child of discordance into the heart of love and to give it the attention that it needs in order to unravel itself, whether it is pain, misery, suffering, disease, upset, imbalance, resistance, lack, division, whatever it is, sadness, hurt, anger, right? Obsession, addiction, rage, fury. Let's see in our own system, okay, there's something here that needs my attention, right? Am I willing to hold it? Am I willing to hold this? To find out what is the seed root behind this discordance. I don't need to understand or know the story, although let the wisdom unfold, right? Let the wisdom reveal itself. But can I hold it in a frequency of love and care and allow the unraveling and untangling of the patterns of discordance that are creating symptoms in my life in some way, right? If our true nature is exuberant joy, we have a compass towards joy and happiness and delight and awe and wonder. If there's something in our field that feels discordant, it's showing us that there's an incredible possibility here to hold this part, this child, in love and care, and to allow some kind of revealing and unraveling to happen, to let God's goodness be revealed in what seems to be a holding pattern or a posture or discordance, right? To give it a chance, give it a chance. We can be postured in life to want some kind of guarantee before moving, making the move. I want to guarantee that the next step is solid ground, right? Is a bird flapping its wings asking for that? Is a butterfly flying in freedom asking for that, right? It's that we're asking for something that actually we don't need. We don't need to know. We don't need a guarantee. We're being invited to recognize we don't need the things that we think we need. Because we can't be free where we're fencing ourselves in constantly, right? Needing a guarantee, needing to control, being afraid of what will happen, right? Like if there's a bird, a baby bird, a fledgling, right on the edge of the nest, if that bird is standing there and it's going, oh my God, I'm going to jump, I'm going to jump, I'm going to jump. Maybe my wings are going to fail. Maybe I'm going to fall flat on my face. Maybe this is my last breath. Maybe I'm not going to make it, right? The chances are the bird will exactly fall flat on its face, splat, right? Game over. But the bird isn't thinking that, right? It's like there's like a wiring within us that's like, flap your wings and fly. Flap your wings and fly, right? Soar, right? It's like we're wired for freedom. We're wired to be spontaneous. We're wired to be joyful. We're wired to not know. We're wired to be a living of life that's vital and open to the field of infinite possibilities. And if we're trying to guarantee what will be around the next corner, and we're saying, oh, but maybe that's what will be around the next corner, maybe that's what's going to happen, lo and behold, you find that you've created it, and then you're sitting there saying, I told you so. I just knew that was around the next corner. Yeah, because you created it around the next corner, right? That's how powerful the mind is. Wow, right? So then let's take a moment. Let's pause for a moment. If I can create what's around the next corner, what do I want to be around the next corner, right? If I'm powerful, then what do I want to be around the next corner? Wow, right? And you start feeling, how do I want to feel around the next corner? How much joy? How open and free and joyful do I want to feel around the next corner? How vibrant and vital do I want to feel around the next corner? Can I tap in and feel that right now? Do I dare? Right? It's such an incredible, incredible possibility, this life. Are you sitting around like kind of metaphorically kind of planning your funeral, doing the admin, right? Doing the admin for preparation for the end, right? Or are you living fearlessly, skidding on the seat of your pants, right? Let someone else take care of the details, right? Because if you're in that process of like, this is what's going to happen, it's a sure way to create that. Are we willing for the resurrection to take place, the transfiguration to take place in every single cell of our body? Are we willing to live the life divine? Are we willing to live in the knowing of the eternal while we still have a body to be this frequency of change for the collective? How will we keep ourselves limited, or what will we open to, right? And it's not about knowing. Just as we're speaking, we have no idea what is coming and what is possible. but I know where I want to be. I know where I want to hang out. I know who I want to have around me, right? Right? This is why we gather, is to be in the field of infinite possibility. Not to be in that frequency of how are we going to fix and change it? Isn't it terrible? Isn't it awful? Yesterday I walked in somewhere and I knew the people that that were there, and it was joyous for a moment to see them, and then one of the beings started to say, "Oh well, you better not be in allegiance to this, and you better not." Like suddenly, I was being bombarded by all the hard things, like the news, and of course, like absolute compassion for that's what's important for that being, and it was a moment of like, oh, okay, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? Because I'm not gonna receive the kind of gunfire of misery that's coming towards me, right? I'm gonna duck over here, and I'm gonna like throw a love bomb. I'm gonna like duck over here, and that it actually happened through silence. It just happened by just absolutely not responding to what was coming, and just bringing the attention to something else. But it's so interesting in life to just watch those situations, like when we go out in the world, right? I left the island yesterday, so I had an adventure. I saw people. It was quite amazing, and I even saw Kareninda and Karnu in the ferry lineup. and um, and this is what life is about. It's about having this possibility of meeting yourself, finding out what do you make allegiance with? Do you join that conversation? Do you receive that fire of all the things that are happening in the world, and do you join with it? Or do you shift the frequency somehow, right? How adept are you at shifting the frequency? Where are you making your allegiance? Are you sprinkling love sparkles wherever you go, right? Are you just smiling at everyone no matter what is happening, right? And it's okay if you're not, but it's just to notice, because what we're speaking of here is the possibility of a human life, and that possibility is in your hands, and your hands in collaboration with the divine. And it's about finding out what is the divine. How do you connect with the divine? And it takes willingness and courage and sincerity and commitment to make these kind of explorations. Yeah. So just resting here and just noticing what's happening in your heart, your field. What is happening now? Just to be so present with yourself and to notice, are you enlivened? Are you uplifted? Are you triggered? Are you stirred? Or is it a mixture of both? Are you recognizing what's true? Are you just opening to everything that's here in the field? Right? Just to be present with yourself. What if we're here to all be the fullest, most brilliant, flowering, blossoming, living expression of our divine self, and to share this with each other uniquely, what we uniquely have to share, right? What if this is what we're here for? And to uplift each other and support each other. And then as we gather in this constellation, we then recognize that we all have our own unique constellations around us in different ways. And then we share that light, that frequency in the constellations around us. And as we share that and we ignite that spark of love and light in the constellations around us, that everyone in our constellations goes to their constellations and ignites. And this is how the shifts that humanity are longing for start to spread, right? Is that you don't actually need to do anything. That in a way, the greatest activism is to be yourself. Wow, right? The greatest activism is to actually be yourself. Yeah. To be a radiant, shining light, to be a truth bomb, to be an embodiment of love, and to be it silently, and to make an expression when it flows through you in whatever way, whatever you have to share. We're all unique. There's no competition. There's enough of everything, enough of everything. We're absolutely resourced by wholeness. When we tap into the source connection, we're resourced from the source, and there's enough for everyone, right? You see, in the power imbalance, it looks like the resources are with a hierarchical few, right? And that there's this hierarchy of resources. And in a way, that's what it looks like. And in a way, within the human realm, there's a truth to that. But what if you open your field as a unified field and you realize that all of those resources actually belong to the divine, right? The resources in everybody's care, not just a few kind of billionaires or gazillionaires or whatever, right? All of those resources actually belong to the divine, all of it. And yet it's being held kind of captive in frequencies of division, in the power imbalance, where that me and mine frequency says, I want the biggest part of the pie, right? I want all of the pie. And there's this kind of culture where it feels like a few have most of the pie, and then there's just not really that much pie to go around for everyone else, right? But the truth is, in the divine frequency, there's enough pie for everyone. And the seeming division of the pie doesn't actually stand in the same way. But it's a frequency thing. It's about being in the frequency where you're open and you know that you're completely deserving of all the pie that you're willing to kind of take for the divine and spread for the divine, right? You're totally willing to be resourced and bring the resources back for the divine and share them for the divine, to repurpose the resources. Because as soon as you make your collaboration about repurposing the resources for the divine, and you're open to the infinite field, and you open to realize that all of the resources are absolutely available to all of us as a unified field. And it's about shifting out of that scarcity frequency of limitation that says, well, I've only got a little bit of the pie, and I'm going to try and hold on to the little teeny piece of the pie that I've got. And I'll just try and accumulate a few more crumbs here and there. If you're just in that frequency, then that's what's self-perpetuating, right? That's what's creating. It's about opening to the fullness of your resources, the uniqueness of how you're resourced, what's moving through you, and how you can give and receive and be a flow a flow of that reorganizing and repurposing of the divine resources, right? So when we ask for, and we open to receive, and we create exchange, we're actually inviting the resources to come out of captivity in the field of division. We're bringing the resources out of the field of separation and into the field of unity, where they can actually then be used for shining the light, spreading the light, sharing, right? Right. And where we awaken this truth in the hearts of the beings that seem to be holding the resources in separation, we open that true frequency where the ones that seem to be holding the resources start sharing the resources, right? They start sharing the resources because there's a recognition that in the unified field, holding a large part of the pie doesn't make sense. If I'm one with all of these companions, wouldn't it make sense to share with my companions and not have this imbalance in place, right? Wouldn't it make sense to share? So as this frequency realignment and reorchestration shifts, it starts shifting the whole dynamics of the seeming imbalance of power and resources within the human collective, and starts to be that there's more beings that are living at the frequency of unity, of love, right? And each being, wherever we are, we have the capacity to make our allegiance with that. And by opening to intuition and the grace of the divine, we find the ways that are true to be a vehicle for that, right? It's very potent just to feel and receive what is being spoken in your consciousness, in your nervous system, and start to feel the recognition of truth in that. Because if we're in a fear that there's not enough, or I don't have enough, or I won't have enough, and this is across the board, we know it financially, but it's with all resources. And one of the actual places that we're in the belief in the greatest scarcity is in love, that we feel like there's not enough love. And it has us create relationships that are like possessive and are fueled within these frequencies of, 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 of lack and power imbalance, right? The massive power imbalance in the earth realm is all around, as Ramakrishna would say, women and gold, right? But we can translate that, and it's basically money and sexuality, sex, right? This whole play and this whole imbalance that creates a dance of imbalance between male and female and makes a play of imbalance that's not actually there, and that we play into it. And our invitation in this human life is to rebalance the masculine and feminine in their divinity in our own heart and life, to be a living expression of the unity where we're not identifying ourselves as a power imbalance in any direction, that we're a living wholeness that reconciles the great imbalance that plays out. And we look in our own lives at all of the ways that we're feeding that imbalance, and we realize, okay, well, here's my divine assignment. These are the places where the imbalance and the discordance plays out. And these are the places for me to reconcile in my heart and bring the power back and the resources back to source, so that I'm being resourced from source, so that I'm being resourced from a frequency of love and unity and knowing that there's enough, so that we don't need to play out those power imbalances. We don't need to objectify. We don't need to oppress, suppress, that we're living in a flow of absolute devotion. We don't need to seduce, enchant. We don't need to manipulate and blame, right? We don't need to overpower. We don't need to use violence. We don't need to project ourselves upon anyone, because we're able and we have the capacity to hold ourselves and to create relational dynamics where we hold each other in truth, right? We hold each other in love and compassion, whatever the situation is. We see the light and the truth in our companions, in our brothers and our sisters. And we know that wherever there's an imbalance being seen or experienced, it's a part of our very own self that we're being asked to reconcile.